Everyone, it's Christian here, and it's another palm review. And this time I'm going to do a palm that's actually not that rare in general, but it's rare for Florida, and it's because of the climate that it requires. And this is Rhopalostylis baueri variation Cheesemannii, like cheese man, with some eyes on the end. So this palm is native to the Kermadec Islands, which are claimed by New Zealand. They're north of the North Island, kind of towards New Caledonia, and they have this odd climate that it never really gets too warm, but it doesn't really get too cold either, and as a result it doesn't really like hot humid weather. This one, it gets warm there, but it doesn't get warm like Florida warm. It gets maybe into the 70s every month of the year, but it never really gets up to around 90. It just kind of stays around 75 to 78 during the day, and lows in the 50s. So it's kind of like our winter throughout the year. As far as I know, I think that's what the climate of the Kermadec Islands are like. So Rhopalostylis baueri is its own species, and there's this variation Cheesemannii, which grows more northerly, which makes it a warmer climate palm versus regular baueri will grow in New Zealand. And the palms that grow in New Zealand don't do well here. They tend to not have the genetic capability to take on our hot, humid summers, especially the summer nights tend to be particularly rough on them. But this is a beautiful plant. It has a very bulbous crown shaft when it's larger. It's one of the most bulbous crown shafts you'll see on any palm. And if you see some, they grow very well in California, where you get that cool weather. Not cold, but cool weather. And so if you look at the leaves here, they're very leathery, and they're very typical of a palm that's native to this area. They look a lot like the New Caledonian palms with a very prominent midrib. And when I say midrib, it actually is a triple midrib here, but they're very, the middle one, where my finger is there, it's very thick, and this is prominent, meaning it juts out from the leaf itself. Some palms don't have much of a midrib at all. So this also has a purplish hue to it. I mean, it's quite colorful actually, and it's a beautiful plant. It kind of gets rid of most of that purple when it gets older. However, I've never seen one with trunk here in Florida, so it remains to see how well this palm will do here. This is probably the best variety to try and grow here, but usually these palms tend to kind of go kaput in 3 gallons. And I've tried myself with a lot of the palms from New Zealand, Lord Howe Island, which has 4 endemic species, including the common Howea forsteriana, and which is a beautiful plant. It just does well it does really well indoors here, but outdoors it'll languish a little bit. It'll grow in the shade, but it won't do very well in the sun. But it does great outdoors in California. So honestly, I don't know what the seeds look like because I've never grown this plant, but I think that they are relatively small, and they're going to be about less than a centimeter in length, a couple of millimeters wide in width, and probably going to want to germinate them around 75 to 80 degrees, my best guess. Again, I don't try and grow these because it's a little bit disappointing. You may get, out of 100, you may get 10 to grow up, and 3 or 4 will make it to a 3 gallon, and then they kind of just die. And it really, as much as I want to keep on trying to do the work with those plants, it's very disappointing. So I guess, again, through years of growing, I've kind of been more selective with what I try and grow, knowing the limitations of my climate. So it's important to also know the limitations of your climate. And if you do live in a tropical area, this is actually not a palm for you here. I'm just going to kind of we're kind of in a close quarters area, so can't really get a full look at the palm there. But this is going to grow well mostly in zone 9 and 10 areas. It can definitely take some cool weather. So the zone 9 and 10 areas that are going to be more maritime oriented. So if you live in, say, Spain, California, let's see where else, cooler parts, like if you live in highland areas of, say, South America, Asia, obviously Australia is going to do well on the coast there, southern coast, but it won't do well in tropical Asia, tropical South America, tropical America. Just again doesn't like the hot, humid nights. So, you know, again, if you want to try, go ahead and give it a try. The best chance I've noticed is that if you try and grow a palm that is hard to grow in your climate from a seed, it tends to adapt more and faster to your, more suitable to your climate, to your area from a seed, as opposed to, say, buying this plant as, say, a 1 gallon from a climate where it does grow well and bringing it to your climate where it does not grow well. Hope that made sense. But basically, you want to get it as young as possible to try and adapt to your climate if you feel like it's marginal for your area. So that's about it for the Rhopalostylis baueri variation Cheesemannii. And yeah, it's a neat palm. You don't see these very often in Florida. Hope this continues to live on. And if you enjoy the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions about Rhopalostylis or other New Zealand palms, you know, leave it down below. I'm not going to have really any others to comment on unless I go over to California or elsewhere in the world. So I'm really, to be honest, I'm not an expert on this plant, but I do know its, you know, its culture and characteristics. And if you have, yeah, if you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.